Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of The Bader Show. I am your host, Mark Bader. This is episode 468. We're coming at you from the nursery. My parents' house. There's no more babies here anymore, but there was back in the day. I'm here on Christmas break visiting my mom and dad. But we got a special show today. It's a little bit more of a heavy topic, but one we need to get into, and we really want to remember and honor Ty Snook. He was a wrestler from the University of Maryland. He wrestled at St. Mark's in Delaware. Unfortunately, he went on to be a police officer, corporal, I believe, from the Delaware Police Department. And he was tragically killed in the line of duty, I think, just a couple days before Christmas. And our guest today, Bobby Telford, assistant coach at the University of Iowa, three-time All-American, was teammates with Ty at St. Mark's. And I really talked to Bobby a little bit, but I want to bring Bobby on and get to know a little bit more about Ty and what he meant to you. And Bobby, first of all, thanks for joining us today, man. How are you?
Bader, always good seeing you, man. Always good seeing you.
Thanks. Man, yeah, I don't really know where to start with this, but I guess just, I know you and Ty went back to, I think, junior wrestling, 5th grade or something like that. Maybe just give me how you met this guy, and you can kind of take it any direction you want.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to play sports until I was 10 years old. That was kind of a rule in the house. And I got into sport of wrestling my second year and dove into it with my Catholic league. It was called CYO back then. And then went with a club second year and met Ty. Ty was same age as me. He was a kid that was more experienced than me. And you knew right away that he was a guy that you would ask a lot of questions to as a newcomer and wanting to be good at this sport, like really quickly right now. And that's when I first met him and stayed extremely close ever since that day. And unfortunately, Tuesday of last week, a cowardly act took his life when he was doing his job at the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicle in Delaware, and was sitting there and was attacked in a cowardly way. And I am, talk to you about coming on the show and honoring him and telling his story and telling you a little bit about the ways he has affected my life and honoring him and his family the best way that I possibly can on this show.
Sure. That I guess maybe just to get into, I don't know, when he coward, he was obviously killed. What was there an altercation, or did somebody did he see this coming? Was he blindsided? I guess, or if you know any of these details.
Yeah, this is something that was an act of pure evil, and he was blindsided, and there was no nothing leading up to this, and he went out a hero in the final moments of his life. He protected the people around him, and that's the guy that I knew. And it doesn't surprise me one bit that at a second's notice, he protected the people around him and try to get them to safety.
Let's back up and tell me some of the, growing up wrestling with him. Tell me some of the fond memories you have. Let's bring back a little bit of joy and, like, I don't know, it could be eating cheeseburgers after a tournament. It can be at practice. It can be, tell me about you guys goofing off where, I don't know, give me some good memories of Ty and what he meant to you.
For sure. For sure. And the other thing is, if I do get emotional on this, Bader, you got to check me, because that's what Ty would do. But Ty was a kid when I first got into the sport, and I can think all the way until this day. I think of Ty and really the four of us. It was Robbie DeMacy, Corey Olson, Ty Snook, and myself. We all went through Tyrants. That was our club back in the day. People might know Tyrants now as a tournament. And Corey Frederick was our coach. Mike Malk was his son. They were also running, Tyrant tournaments as well. And then we all went to the same high school together. But being from the youngest age, Ty's dad and mom and brother were with him. Matt and Karen and Josh and Cassie, they were always with him. They always traveled to all the tournaments together. And like I said, Ty, he definitely started wrestling before, some of us, but it didn't come easy to him. He wasn't the physical specimen that he was later in his high school years and in college and post college. I mean, I had multiple state troopers sending me pictures of Ty's, troop or state record for the state troopers bench record, 500 pounds plus. So we're talking a mountain of a man. But in the beginning, he was a guy that worked extremely hard and maybe didn't have the results until later in his career. And I think that needs to be said. And the things that he did in terms of pulling us together in high school more so, but especially in middle school, where we're all trying to really catch up. We all started a little bit later, and you're trying to catch up with these nationally ranked programs and teams. And that's what Tyrant did. They kind of put us on that national scale. And he was a guy that made it fun. He was always fun to be around. He was always smiling. He was always telling you what you're really good at, or telling you, hey, you're better than this guy. I wrestled this guy one time before. You do this so much better. You do that so much better. This is all you. This match is all you. So from the beginning of my, wrestling journey, those are the things I remember. And one thing really distinctly that I told in one of our prayers, I remember being in New Jersey, and I remember losing a match. This is probably my second or third year really competing in wrestling, and losing a match to a good kid in the finals and kind of being really upset about it. And I remember the position. I can't remember if it was like a head in the hole front headlock or just a regular, just standard go behind, but it was short time left, and I kind of left it up in the ref's hands. I didn't hustle and get all the way and secure the two. And I was really upset afterwards. And my dad was giving it to me a little bit up, afterwards as well. And Mr. Snook, Matt Snook, kind of grabbed my dad around the shoulder and took him off to one side and kind of told Ty to take me off to another side. And I was really upset. And I just remember Ty saying, hey, this is not a big deal. That was a silly mistake. We'll work on it. And we're talking like a sixth grade kid talking like that. Like, hey, we'll work on it. We'll work on it. No problem. And all four of us coming back together, and we had a special bond with that team, that the family as a whole. It was one of those situations where we were a club, but nobody left until the whole club was done. I can remember multiple times, me being one of the bigger kids, the whole Snook family waiting for me to leave, even though they all been done at this tournament for 2 hours. And that just speaks to I'm very grateful and very blessed and very thankful for the way that I was raised and the people around me. It was unbelievable. It was a lot of fun too. It was a lot of fun.
Well, it's good to know you have those great memories. He sounds like not only, a good friend, but a good friend who's a hype man, and he's gassing you up, making you feel good. Not only that, like the perspective of a sixth grader in that what you just described, where his dad kind of pulled your dad to the side and he put his arm around you, and he knew what you needed, and that's what you needed, right? You just needed somebody. Hey, okay, you lost the match, no big deal. It was close. We're fine. We'll work on it, right? But to you, the person who goes through it is kind of like, it's not the end of the world, but it's a big deal. And so for him to be able to pull you to the side and know that you just needed a pat on the shoulder and a little pickup, pretty awesome.
You stole the words right out of my mouth. And this is what we talk about on our private calls for this last week. He was the ultimate gas man all the time. He always gassed you up, especially in high school. We went to a big high school at one time. It was a private school, but at one time there were 1,700 kids there. So he was always gassing you up, in not only in sports, but the social aspect of it, competing with people and every aspect of life. He was the absolute best, and that carried through all the way until this day. He was always the guy to gas you up. Yeah, but he would always give you a little something on the edge that would carry you through. And that's what he did in high school. even more so. And that's where he really became the leader, where we, after the banquet every year, the team votes on the team captain for the next year. And our arguably the best team, that came out of that run was that '09 team. Could be 2010 team. It's one of the two. They were both ranked at one point top 10 in the country from the little state of Delaware. Now you'd have to follow up with my high school coaches on all the rankings and all that stuff. But Ty was our captain, and he was voted that way because of who he was.
Yeah, because if I'm going back to what you said earlier, I think you said, yeah, he was a big, strong, physical, imposing person, maybe at the end of high school and in college and today, but maybe not at the beginning. So he had some work to do throughout high school to get, not to be a leader, but to be like as successful as he was. But I guess my point, what I'm getting at is, even if he wasn't the most successful guy, there was something about him that his teammates said, he's our leader, and we're voting him captain. Is that accurate?
Yeah, 100%. And that and his whole journey throughout his whole career. And you can see a physical transformation very easily, but to see his accolades and his success on the mat as well, you're talking about a guy that didn't have a winning. I want to quote this right, and I'm fairly certain about this, but I don't think he had a winning record going into the state tournament his freshman year. And then, sure enough, he ended up third or fourth at the state tournament, kind of went on a good running. That was his more so coming out party and finding himself. And his junior year, a kid by the name Alex Mead, that's a name that's a blast from the past, was at the same weight. So he could have went to a different weight, to go on that state title run. But Ty took it on as a challenge, and took it on as a challenge in a really healthy, fun, and excited and a fire in your belly kind of way. And everyone on the team recognized that. And the way that he could connect with everyone on the team was unbelievable. That's why he was that team, that team captain. And then sure enough, his senior year, adversity strikes again. He breaks his leg playing I believe it was just like a pickup game of football. I was playing football, but they were doing like preseason training, and fractured his leg. So he was out for, a good part of the season, and sure enough came through. And at the end of the year, senior year, he's a state champion. And so a lot to be said about him. A lot of great memories, a lot of great stories in there, and just a kid that worked his tail off. I was talking to somebody about it, a couple of days ago, but when you work for 3 or 4 years without the success and you're 12 years old, well, if you work for 3 years and you're 12 years old, that's 25% of your life. And he never wavered. He only continued to listen to his coaches. He had an unbelievable support staff around him. And that really needs to be said. His family, Matt and Karen, his mom and dad, are salt of the earth people. Salt of the earth. I mean, people were living with them when we were in high school that were coming from New Jersey to wrestle on our team. They would live with them for years at a time. And I'd stay with them countless days. And the way that they used to talk about you before you even did anything, like, hey, you're going to be a monster. You are going to be an animal. Just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Was unbelievable. And his parents instilled that into him, and that's who he was.
Man, that's awesome. It's great. Parents can make all the difference. And it sounds like in this case, that really did happen. You mentioned, he has all this adversity and he breaks his leg, and then he comes back and he wins. Like, do you remember that match? Do you remember that day? Do you remember him afterwards, after he won it all? I'm just like, put me back in that moment.
One of those pictures that you just put up of the 6 of us, where there's 3 guys and 3 guys on the shoulder. I believe we had 9 in the state finals. Wow. We had 9 in the state finals, and we had 6 champs. And it was unbelievable to watch him. He's got a younger brother that's in between. I'm in between them, Josh. We had a really close, tight-knit group of kids there. That was an unbelievable team. And I just remember his parents being so proud of him. And I remember us as a team, you want the guy that is leading you. You want that guy to accomplish his goal so bad. And even though that he had a lot of adversity that year and it wasn't a perfect, run, there was going to be a lot of adversity. Ty wasn't a guy that, sat and moaned or sucked his thumb. He was the exact opposite of that. He was actually the guy that talked to people when no one was around, really directly, like, hey, you're gonna have to suck it up, man. You're gonna have to get tough here. And just a story that comes to mind. I wrestled heavyweight that year. I was a 225 to 230-pound heavyweight. Corey Olson, the guy all the way in the bottom left of that picture, was a 215-pounder. Went and played football at University of Delaware, and Snook was wrestling 71. Those guys were way stronger than me in the weight room, way stronger than me, and I was a heavyweight. You're talking like just traditional bench, clean, squat, and that was our lifting group. And I remember Ty would go first. We would kind of go in weight class order. Ty would go first, and then Olson would go and put a little bit more weight on, and then I would go, and I would always try to one up it from them, but I wasn't as strong in the weight room. We were both kind of late bloomers, and I would go back down to a weight less than Ty. I can remember one time we're cleaning, he's doing 225, Olson does 235, and I got to go back down to 215, and I'm pissed off. I'm like, I got to get stronger. I'm getting outlifted by, guys that are 50 pounds less than me. I'm supposed to be the number one kid in the country and all this other stuff. And Snook just looks at me and he's like, yeah, you're going to have to get Telford. You're going to have to get stronger, but the good news is I got a weight room in my basement. And then I would hit my set and I'd be all mad. And he'd look at me and he goes, but also Telford, you're not like weightlifting strong. Like, your family's a bunch of lumberjacks. Like, you're like lumberjack strong. So like, that's just totally different. When you go out on the mat, just go like, like how you guys rip trees out of the ground. Like, that's what you're genetically made to do. You just go do that when you're out on the mat. And it's just like stuff like that. He's an unbelievable guy. Unbelievable kid.
That's great, because he hits you with what you don't necessarily want to hear. Yeah, man, you got to get stronger, Bobby. Come on, suck it up. And then he softens it with, but you're actually lumberjacks and just wrestle people like ripping trees out of the ground. Pretty awesome. So you guys finished high school at St. Mark's in Delaware. You obviously go to Iowa. He goes to the University of Maryland. Did you keep in touch much, or was it I see you back at Christmas, or I see you once a year, or I talk to you once a week, or maybe somewhere in between, I'm guessing?
Yeah, it was, we spoke, you got social media, so you're always sending, each other things, and then, texting each other and catching up. I didn't go back. I go back in the summer, for a short period of time. Sometimes I'm down the beach, sometimes I'm up where I grew up. But, I was talking to you before this more. So, meeting up, I can think of, we did, a camp, kind of thing for our high school. And it was, all the guys coming back, and then everybody goes afterwards to a fundraiser, and then you stay. And Ty was one of those guys, if you're anywhere with him, you're going to be there for 4 or 5 hours. He was one of the best storytellers. He was one of the best people to be around. He was such a good time. He was so much fun. And I can remember him distinctly talking to me about, being a state trooper, and talking about, what his day-to-day job was, some of the stories that he had, some of the people that he helped out. And then he kind of looks at you after a pause and you would be so good at it. We would have so much fun. I just talking like, if you ever came back, you would love it. And we would be back together. So he's like almost kind of recruiting you, and you're like, well, time out. I don't want to, and I'm not thinking about being a police officer or anything, but because it's Ty, it goes through your head for a second. And, I haven't mentioned this, but his wife, Lauren, and his little baby girl, Letty, just just talking to him about pictures that you see on Facebook that people put up for Thanksgiving or things like that. And like, hey man, this is an awesome family picture. So proud of you, homie. Keep doing your thing. And he gets back to you, and then he sends you a picture. Hey, I know you're into the outdoors. I just started getting into bow hunting, and he shows me this little buck, like basket rack buck, and he's like, it's not not that big, but it's got a big body on it. So he's got that that funny competitive or funny spirit about him, and it's he was the best guy. And I haven't said this enough, or I haven't put it to a point enough about going from 189 my sophomore. I went from 135 partially on my freshman year. I went down to 35 partially because I couldn't beat Ty on the team, and he was kind of like, you're tough, you're tougher than me, easy, anyway, you can make the weight, kind of like, instead of big brother and me and putting me under his thumb, which is always a good thing too. He's like, you go to 35, and then I went 89, and then heavyweight. That year was a year I really started to come on strong, and I spent so much time with Ty and Matt that year, and just like you said, gassing up, that you took the words right out of my mouth. He gassed me up so much, all the way through the Beast of the East run, and all the way through that year, and throughout my career, and then all the way through college, all the way through, when we're having a dual mate here, you guys, this guy looks like a monster, or you guys are killing it. He was an unbelievable guy.
When he was in college, or maybe short, like, I know he told you about being in the police force, but prior to that, did he tell you like his desires to get into it, and maybe what his motivation or whatever you want to call it was for that?
That's a good question. I don't have like a specific memory, but I remember him going to the academy right after he went into school. And I remember he was really excited about it. And I remember he was, I'm all in on this thing. He was training a little bit to, jiu-jitsu and striking. There was a gym that they always went to. He was always talking about that, but going in and being, the Delaware State Trooper was, a big deal to him. And he was really excited about doing it. And his younger brother, Josh, those two have a connection that only brothers can have. And Josh always wanted to be like Ty, and they were always right next to each other. Ty went to Maryland, Josh went to Maryland. Ty graduated, went into the police force and Delaware State Troopers. Josh went into the police force and the Delaware State Troopers. I don't have a specific memory. I just remember him being very excited about it, and then having a lot of fun and loving what he did, and loving serving the community, and loving helping people, and doing the job and the duty that it called for.
Having any conversations with him once he was a police officer, do you remember any stories, I don't know, of things he told you that, like, because you said, I just know he loved it, and I, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but can you recall any stories or things that he told you about the job that he loves?
Yeah, I'll share a story. So this is somebody else's story that was on one of the calls earlier, and I didn't ask him to share it, so I hope he's okay with it. But he was pretty much saying, this guy was on a call with our core group of people, and he was saying, when I first met Ty, I was at a dealership, and I was it sounded like the guy felt like he was getting ripped off, so he was there for he was pissed off, so he was causing a scene. Ty kind of showed up behind him, and like I said, Ty was this physical mountain of a man. I mean, you were talking about a guy that his claim was that he benches 500 plus, and he comes up into him in a very gentle way. Hey, why don't you come outside, man? And I'm not going outside, blah blah blah. Finally gets him outside, and Ty looks at him. The guy is probably ready to go to the next level, and he goes, "You need a hug, man? What's going on? You need a hug? You just having a bad day?" And, the guy was talking about, no, I didn't, I'm not having yeah, you know what? I am having a bad, I don't need a hug. I'm just having a bad day. Well, let's just figure this out. There's no reason to be treating anybody like this or a certain way or the other way. And dissolved the issue, figured the things out. And then at the end, the guy shared, at the end of the day, they shook hands, and then Ty pulled him in and hugged him hard. And when you talk about, changing people's perspective about things, and you can go in there and, you do it really easy. You're like, hey, you want to do this the hard way, or you want to do it the easy way? Or that you just take a moment to understand what's going on and do what you think about that police do when you're a little kid, like protect and serve the community. When I heard that story, I'm like, that's Ty. Because you're talking about a guy that's unbelievably capable at wrestling, unbelievably capable at striking, well-versed in the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, physically extremely fit. I think he won the fitness award at that academy for, that year he was there. A very dangerous man, but learned to understand people and learn to go the extra mile to help people out. And when that guy shared that story, I hope he's okay with me sharing that story. That's number one. But number two, when he shared that, I'm like, that's Ty.
That's awesome, because he from everything you described, he could have easily physically dismantled this guy and just said whatever. But instead, he tried to emotionally connect with him, or just find, he did the right thing. And that's not always easy, because we all get emotional. I mean, like you said, you want to do it the hard way or the easy way? No. Put his arm. You okay, man? What's up? Something's wrong. And who knows what happened to that guy that day, right? And so hats off to Ty. I tell you, he sounds like the kind of guy I want to hang out with. It sounds like the kind of guy everybody wants to hang out with, and it'd be fun.
I told my wife this, and this is one of those things where you got to hold me accountable. I can't get emotional.
All right. That's all right. Come on. You got this, Bobby. Honor him. This is for him.
This is like, I'll bring you back into like the old St. Mark's locker room talk, right? It's like, who are you going to let date your sister? You know what I mean? And which is an awesome question for me, because I don't have a sister, right? So I'm like, I'm off the fence on this one. All I'm doing is antagonizing. And, usually that question comes up right away, and it usually goes to, who wouldn't you let date your sister? So everyone's pointing fingers, that kind of stuff. It's just good camaraderie, that kind of thing. Great. But I never had a sister, but I have a 19-month-old daughter, and I pray to God that she meets a man with character like Ty Snook had. Because he's an unbelievable man, and I wouldn't be who I am today without him. And I told you, Bader, if I get emotional, you gotta hold me to it.
You're good, Bobby. You're doing great, honestly. And to get emotional is fun.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead. I'm just trying to keep you in check.
and that is who he is. And I said this before to another news outlet. Ty Snook is an American dream, because it never came easy to him, and he wasn't the chosen winner. He wasn't the kid that at 10 years old everyone would pick to be the top guy. And he worked every single day, and he was an unbelievable son. He was an unbelievable brother, teammate, but he was an unbelievable husband to Lauren, an unbelievable father to Letty. And He is my hero. And at a moment's notice,
That's really
he tried to protect the people around him. And that's Ty Snook.
sounds like just a unbelievable person. I guess maybe tell me, do you know his wife? Have you met her? Or maybe tell me just a little bit about her wife and why they were good fit for each other.
No, I haven't met her in person. They were dating the last time we were together, and then they're married, and then their daughter's about the same age as my daughter. She's a little older than one, and he moved right down the street. Another great conversation. He moved right down the street where I originally grew up. We didn't grow up close to each other, but Lauren and Letty, they live in Delaware, and the unbelievable support. I just, from being here in Iowa and seeing the things that I see and talking to the people that I talk to, the unbelievable support that people show to them, I couldn't be more proud to be where I'm at. From where I am, around the people where I am, or the people in this country that stepped up to support them, because her husband's not coming home, and a little baby girl's father's not coming home.
That's tragic. But I said earlier, good parents can really make a difference in a kid's lives, and I should expand that because really good parents can make a difference not only in the children's lives but the friends of their children's. Guys like you, right? Like I know I've met your dad. I haven't met your mom, but I can tell you come from a good place with good parents. But having a friend with good parents it's a pretty big deal, and you seem pretty lucky to have that.
I try to call Matt Snook once a year and just say thanks for everything, man, because he was a guy that believed in me really before I believed in myself. And I talk about that Beast of the East tournament, and I talk about, he was one of the first people that I talked to after that tournament, and I knew you'd win it. I told you, Telford. I always, those guys used to back then call me Telford Tree. My dad's company was called Telford Tree Experts. So Telford Tree was always on the door. Telford Tree, I told you you're going to be a monster. I told you. And then Karen was, she's unbelievable. And you got to be ranked number one in the country. You got to be. If they don't, they're just haters. And just going over their house, in the environment that they had, don't leave the snacks or the food out, or you're going to hear it, but go grab something. You guys come in here, you can kind of hang out, and, going all around the country together and being that really close knit, tight knit family. There's, when I say close knit, tight knit, I'm talking 20, 30 people, where nobody left. Nobody left at all until everyone was done wrestling. And it was so much fun, and traveling together and riding dirt bikes together and riding four-wheelers together and playing paintball together and just being a family together, going down the beach together, training together. It was just the best.
Sorry, it was a phone call.
I owe a lot.
I
owe it a lot
Bobby.
to Matt and Karen Snook. And I hope they know that, and they're watching, and know that I love you guys, and thank you so much, for everything.
When you guys traveled together, like, did you travel in a car with them, or did you and your parents travel to the same place, wherever it was, and then?
Yeah. So we used to carpool. That was a big thing. We would, like, when we were in Tyrant, I remember going up the PA Turnpike and the Jersey Turnpike, like 17 deep, and then everybody, if you pulled off, everybody pulled off together. Everyone, it was just so much fun. You felt like you had your own army. You felt like you had your own family. And if, somebody's parent was doing something with another kid, their parents would be cornering you, and it would be no love lost. Or if a parent was working, The other thing is everyone needed to get to practice. We practiced hurricanes, power outages, snowstorms. I just remember those guys bringing in lights. My dad had generators, and then we would practice under these lights, and everybody's parents, the whole families would all be at practice every night. It wasn't like a drop off, come see you later kind of thing. This is, the parents were allowed at this club. It wasn't like a daycare system. It was everybody's all in. Everybody knows what's going on with everybody's kid. Everybody knows if something's happening with somebody's family and they need a little bit extra boost here, or need help here, or somebody's sick or something tragic's happening. Everybody had everyone's back, and it was awesome. It was so much fun. It was so much fun, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
What an amazing environment. I wrestled at a kid, I wrestled in Little League, and I don't want many kids from my school that wrestled. It was a bunch of other schools, and we'd get to do the tournaments together, but like the tight knit, 17 cars pull off the highway together, or this caravan of wrestlers marching down the highway with their family just seems like a really freaking awesome experience. And I'm glad
Corey
we get to do
Frederick
that.
was a huge part of that, and he was our club coach, and he was the guy that rallied everybody on these calls these last couple of days. So I want to thank him a lot. And Jay Bassinelli was our high school coach. But it's something to go off funny. Tyrant duels is still a thing, but I remember when Tyrant duels was the original Tyrant duels, and I wish Corey could be on here to have his 2 cents about it too. But we had Tyrant duels, and let's just say the weights were 85, 90, 95, 100, just standard 5% increments. Well, when Corey would host a tournament, we had 13 kids those weights. Well, what Corey would do, he would go 85, 86, 89, 91, 94, 93, and you just stack it so everyone would wrestle. And it was just so much fun. It wasn't it wasn't something like any other team. It was unbelievable. It was so much fun.
Do you remember the last time you got to actually physically be with Ty?
It would have been at the Oyster House, at the restaurant at the Oyster House 2 years ago. Or yeah, 2 years ago. I didn't go upstate Delaware last year.
That's when you showed up and you just ran into him, and then you're not stuck, but you're stuck for 5 hours. I say
It's
stuck
just,
in a good way.
we're just, it was one of it. Yeah. And what you're saying is funny. I understand what you're saying, because it was, I think I told the story off, when we weren't doing this, but it was, hey, there's really good seafood here. I don't eat a lot of good seafood, so let's go down here. We'll be in and out real quick. Which my wife, God bless her soul, when she knows when I'm out east, that kind of anything goes. And we run into Ty, and it's one of those things where you sit for 4 or 5 hours. You're done your meal in an hour and 15 minutes, but you sit there and talk, and it was actually, they're kind of shooing you out the door, and it's like, oh, we can sit outside and talk a little bit more. And it was an unbelievable. It's always just an unbelievable time anytime you're with them.
Well, as tragic as all this is, I'm glad it wasn't like just you pass him at the gas station or something. The last time you saw him, it was like a very meaningful 4 or 5 hour. Like, you don't want any of this to happen, but maybe it's nice to be able to look back and say, hey, the last time I got to see him was meaningful and impactful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anytime I think something like this happens, you go back to when's the last time you saw him? When's the last time you talked to him? And I remember talking to him about his family, early December, late November. And he's an unbelievable guy. He's an unbelievable guy. And he is the American dream. Ty Snook is the American dream, because he worked at it every single day of his life, and he was continuing to work at it up until his dying day. And he went out a hero, and he tried to save the person closest to him. And I love him so much. I love his family so much. And it's just, I was watching the movie. You ever watch the movie It's a Wonderful Life?
Oh man, my mom watches it right around New Year's. Yeah, I mean Christmas. We just watched it
Okay,
the other
so
night.
that's how my family was. My mom watches A Wonderful Life from December 1st all the way until like March 1st. So like growing up, every night, she's going to bed or, but as everything's winding down, she would put it on. So I despised it for a little bit, just
Sure.
being a kid. But you go back to it, I'm watching it after Ty, and I'm thinking about, if Ty Snook wasn't born, I wouldn't be who I was. There's no way I would have the character that I have without him. And I confident I can speak for everybody on my team that he impacted their lives in such an unbelievable and positive way. So it was around, happened right around Christmas, and I saw that movie, and it just kind of clicked in my head right away.
Man, Bobby, that literally made the hair on my arms and legs stand up. Thinking about what happened if Ty was never born and how that would have impacted your life and your life in a big way, but God knows how many other people he impacted and touched like just as much as he did to you. Pretty remarkable. Man, I don't even know what to ask next, Bobby. To be honest, I mean, we've said a lot, but I want to give you the floor to say anything you want to say. And when it's run its course, please let me know.
I just want to say a prayer for Matt and Karen, his mom and dad, his brother and sister Josh and Cassie, and his wife Lauren, and his little baby Letty. God watches over them and shows them strength and unity. And I just want to thank a couple organizations, and it's one of those parts, man, where you got to keep me
You
honest,
got it.
Peter.
You're doing awesome. You're doing awesome, Bobby. We're down
this
to
is
we're down to close to the end.
Yeah.
There you go.
I want to thank Dave Portnoy, Barstool Sports. They were some of the first people to step up and do the foundation for Ty and his family. I believe they've raised over $1 million. So that's huge.
Amazing.
The Delaware State Troopers and Help a Hero, helping raise money for them as well. And then the 9/11 relief, I believe that's the main reason of the foundation, Tunnels to Towers, announced that they will be taking care of Lauren and Letty's mortgage. So that's huge. But the community of Delaware, the wrestling community, stepping up when things like this happens, traveling across the world and going to all kinds of places. There's no place like this country. And I'm very grateful and thankful to be from here, grow up from the town that I grew up in and around the people that I grew up in. And I just want to thank everybody that's helped them out. And the last thing I'll say is Ty Snook, he's an American dream, man. He's an American dream kid. Worked every day towards it. And we all love him.
Bobby, you're doing great. I know I see you fighting it back, but either way, that's fine. I appreciate you coming on here. Those you mentioned those ways to donate. We're gonna get links in those down in the description of this video. So you want to click, make a donation. That would be great. It's awesome to hear that these communities have stepped up. But I think you said over $1 million, and somebody else is going to pay off their mortgage. Like, these are really, really cool. The Delaware, the wrestling, the whole whatever it's coming from nationally, I'm sure. Appreciate Dave Portnoy, Barstool. Obviously, nothing's gonna erase what's happened. But what's happened has happened, and any way to help the family, I know, would be appreciated. So, Bobby, you've been awesome here, and I really appreciate you coming on. I'll give you one last. I already did, but I'll give you one last final word if you want, and we'll let this thing.
You're the man, Bader. Those locks are looking good. Keep growing them out.
All right. Thank you, Bobby. I appreciate it. The mullet? Oh, you want me to get a mullet? Cut the. Nah.
Just keep it fluffed and feathered.
Old Sammy Brooks. Fluffed and feathered, no problem. Yeah. Shane. That was a Shane Sparks interview, I believe. Was that 10 years ago now? 8 years ago? 6 years ago?
Don't worry.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Bobby, Happy New Year's to you and your family. Obviously, we're keeping you and the Snooks and everybody in our thoughts and prayers, and really appreciate you coming on and gutting through this. I'm sure it was tough, but I appreciate it, and I hopefully the people that watch this appreciate it too.
It wasn't tough. Snook be telling you, hey, don't go up there babbling now. Don't be going up there crying all the time. So it was a lot of fun. I appreciate you letting me honor him and his family, and say hi to all the guys at Flow. We'll see you soon. Happy New Year.
All right. Thanks. You too. All right, folks, that's going to do it for today's show. Bobby Telford, remembering and honoring his good friend Ty Snook. And we'll see you guys later. Thanks.